Before you send that message, before you walk into that room, before you say the thing you can never unsay, there is one thing you need to do first, and almost nobody does it. 5,000 years ago, on the most legendary battlefield the world has ever known, the greatest warrior alive did something that stunned every single person watching. He didn't charge forward. He didn't raise his weapon. He made one quiet request. So simple, so unexpected, that it altered the course of history. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what that request was, and why ignoring it might be the reason your last fight ended the way it did. You've been rehearsing the conversation in your head for days now, maybe weeks. You know exactly what you'll say, every point, every argument, every devastating comeback. You've imagined their face when you finally speak your truth. You've played it out so many times that you can feel the adrenaline just thinking about it. But here's what you haven't done. You haven't stopped. You haven't paused, really paused, to look. Not at your arguments, not at your evidence, at the actual human beings on the other side, at their faces, at who they are to you, at what this fight will actually cost, not just them, but you. You're so prepared for war that you forgot to ask yourself the only question that matters before any battle. Do I truly see what I'm about to fight? His name was Neel, 31 years old, a software architect in Bangalore who had spent the last 4 years building a company with his older brother, Arav. They'd started it in their parents' living room, 2 laptops, one shared dream, and a promise that no matter what happened, they'd have each other's backs. That promise held through the 18-hour days, the failed pitches, the months they couldn't pay themselves. But somewhere along the way, things cracked. Arav wanted to scale fast, bring in outside investors, pivot the product. Neel wanted to stay lean, stay true to their original vision. What started as creative disagreements became cold silences. What were once brainstorming sessions became battlefields. And then came the board meeting. Neel discovered that Arav had signed a term sheet with an investor without telling him, without even asking. That was it, the line. Neel spent 3 weeks with his lawyers preparing a case to force Arav out, to dissolve their partnership, to burn the bridge that had held their lives together since childhood. The meeting was set for Monday morning, 9 a.m., conference room, lawyers on both sides. It was Sunday night. Neel couldn't sleep. He sat in his car outside his apartment building, engine off, staring at the dashboard. His phone buzzed. Another message from his lawyer, confirming every detail. "We're ready, don't waver." He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to think. So he drove. No destination, just movement. And somehow, without planning it, he ended up outside the old chai stall near his college campus. And that's where he saw him, Professor Raghavan, 73 years old, retired, sitting alone at a plastic table with a steel glass of chai, reading a newspaper under a flickering tube light. The man who had taught Neel philosophy in his second year of engineering. The man who had once told the entire class, the quality of your life will be determined not by the answers you find, but by the questions you have the courage to ask. Neel almost drove away. Almost. But something, he still can't explain what, made him park the car and walk over. "Neel, is that you?" The old professor looked up, squinting through his glasses. "Sit down. You look like a man who's about to go to war." Neel laughed, but it came out hollow. "You have no idea, sir." He didn't plan to tell him everything, but the chai came and the words followed. The company, Arav's betrayal, the lawyers, Monday morning. Professor Raghavan listened without interrupting, not once. When Neel finished, the old man set down his glass slowly and looked at him with those steady, unblinking eyes. "Neel," he said, "let me ask you something. You've spent 3 weeks preparing your weapons, your arguments, your documents, your legal strategy. You know exactly how to win this fight. But tell me, have you looked? Have you actually placed yourself between the two sides, yours and his, and truly looked at who is standing there? Not the business partner who wronged you, the person, your brother, the boy who shared a bedroom with you for 18 years, the man who cried at your wedding." Neel opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. "Before you fight," the professor said quietly, leaning forward, "see, truly see. Not so you become weak, not so you retreat, but so that whatever you decide to do next, you decide with your eyes open. Not blind with rage, not clouded by pain, but seeing clearly." There is an ancient verse, the professor continued, his voice dropping low, from a warrior who stood on a battlefield far greater than yours. He had every reason to fight, every right, every skill. But before he drew his bow, he made one request. He said, "Place me in the middle, let me see. Let me see who stands before me." That pause, Neel, that single terrifying pause, changed everything. Now hear the original Sanskrit. These are the words from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in a moment that would change the warrior Arjuna's life forever. These are verses 20 through 25. "अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवः ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्य इदमाह महीपते." अर्जुन उवाच "सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयमेच्युत यावदेतान् निरीक्षेऽहं योद्धुकामानवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यमस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे." संजय उवाच एवमुक्तो हृषीकेशो गुडाकेशेन भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमं भीष्मद्रोणप्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरूनिति. Here is what these sacred words mean. Arjuna, the mighty warrior, the one whose banner bore the mark of Hanuman himself, looked out at the battlefield and saw the sons of Dhritarashtra assembled and ready for war. The clash of arms was imminent. Weapons were drawn. The air trembled with the promise of blood. And in that moment, instead of charging forward, Arjuna lifted his bow, turned to Krishna, the master of the senses, the infallible one, and said, "O Achyuta, place my chariot between the two armies. Let me stand in the middle. I need to see them, those who have gathered here, eager for battle, those with whom I must fight in this great conflict." And Krishna, without hesitation, without a single question, drove that magnificent chariot right into the center of the battlefield, between both armies, in full view of Bhishma, the great grandsire, Drona, the beloved teacher, every king, every warrior who had gathered for war. And then Krishna spoke just 3 quiet words. "Partha, behold." See all the Kurus assembled here. Not fight them, not destroy them, just see them. Think about what is truly happening in this moment. Arjuna is not a coward. He is the finest archer the world has ever known. He has won wars that seemed impossible. He has earned divine weapons from the gods themselves. He has every reason to fight. His kingdom was stolen. His wife was publicly humiliated. His family endured 13 years of cruel exile. Justice stands firmly on his side. And yet, in the moment before chaos erupts, when every warrior around him is ready to kill and die, when the conch shells have already sounded, Arjuna does something no one expected. He pauses. He asks to be placed in the space between, not on his side, not on theirs, in the middle, in the place of clear seeing. He doesn't ask Krishna for a battle strategy. He doesn't ask for a motivational speech. He asks for vision, for clarity. Show me who I'm fighting. Let me look into their faces. Let me understand the full weight of what is about to unfold. Now think about Neel, sitting across from Professor Raghavan at that chai stall, tea going cold, a man who had spent 3 weeks sharpening his weapons, legal arguments, evidence of betrayal, a strategy designed to win, and never once stopped to truly look at who was standing on the other side. The same blindness, the same battlefield, separated by 5,000 years, but joined by the same deeply human flaw, the rush to fight before we've had the courage to see. Neel didn't sleep that night either, but this was a different kind of wakefulness. He sat at his desk at 2 in the morning and did something he hadn't done in months. He opened his photo gallery and scrolled, past the legal documents, past the screenshots of emails, past the term sheets, until he found them. Old photographs. Arav and him at their first startup meetup, grinning like fools with matching lanyards. A shaky video from the night they landed their first paying customer. Arav dancing in the living room while their mother tried to shush him because the neighbors were sleeping. And then one more thing. A voice note from Arav sent 8 months ago before everything went wrong. Neel had never opened it. His thumb hovered over it for a long time. Then he pressed play. Hey Neel, I know things have been tense between us lately. I want you to know, no matter what happens with the company, you're my brother first, always. I know I don't say it enough, but I wouldn't be here without you, man. Neel sat there in the dark for a long time, his phone pressed flat against his chest. He didn't cancel the Monday meeting. He didn't fire his lawyers. He didn't suddenly pretend the betrayal hadn't happened. That's not how real life works. The hurt was real. The broken trust was real. But when he walked into that conference room Monday morning, something had shifted inside him. He looked at Arav, really looked at him, and noticed the dark circles under his eyes. The way his hands trembled slightly around his coffee cup. The way Arav glanced at him with an expression that looked less like defiance and more like grief. Neel took a long breath, and instead of reading from his lawyer's prepared statement, he said 5 words that weren't in any legal document. Bhai, can we just talk? The room went completely silent. The lawyers shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, but Arav's shoulders dropped, visibly, unmistakably, like a man finally putting down a weight he'd been carrying alone for months. They didn't solve everything that day. They didn't hug and pretend the damage wasn't real, but they talked. For the first time in over a year, without armor, without weapons, just two brothers sitting in the middle of their battlefield, finally seeing each other. It started with a pause, one simple, terrifying pause, the same one a warrior made 5,000 years ago when he said, "Place me in the middle, let me see." Now let me ask you something honestly. You keep replaying that argument in your head, perfecting your response, but you haven't once tried to understand theirs. Every time you picture that person's face, you see the betrayal first, and the human being second. Maybe not at all. There's a conversation you've been avoiding, not because you fear confrontation, but because you're afraid of what you'll feel if you actually look. You've already written the ending to this story, and you haven't even had the courage to let it truly begin. If any of that landed, these verses were waiting for you. Here is your Gita journal question for today. Before your next battle, whether it's with a person, a situation, or even with yourself, sit with this question. If I placed myself in the middle, between my anger and their truth, what would I actually see? Write it down, sit with it, don't rush past it, and if you're brave enough, share your reflection in the comments below. You might be surprised by how many people are standing on the exact same battlefield as you, right now, tonight. And remember this, the bravest thing Arjuna ever did on that battlefield wasn't picking up his bow, it was putting it down just long enough to open his eyes. See first, fight later, or you will spend the rest of your life winning wars you were never supposed to start.